Hey, it's Mazzy, and we're all here for watching these videos, and we're collecting records all in the material world. I want to showcase and give you my take on the George Harrison 51st anniversary edition of Living in the Material World. This is the Super Deluxe set, or the Deluxe set. I don't know what they're calling this one. That Danny, Paul Hicks, and Olivia worked on over the last several years. They're doing this whole rollout. A few years ago, he did All Things Must Pass. We know of the remixes that Sean has been doing on behalf of his father. Paul McCartney has been stalled with the archive series, but he continues to put things in, and we all know what's happening to the Beatles and the remix versions of their albums. Maybe Rubber Soul next, who knows? And the AI thing, which I think is fun, but I'm not totally a fan of. But I want to talk about this because I'm going to give you my original, personal, current take on this. And I compared it to my original US and original UK copies. I like this album. I know it did hit #1 after All Things Must Pass, and then Bangladesh, and then this. One good thing I will say about this, not one good thing, but a good thing about this, is all the proceeds go to the Material World Foundation. Pretty much the same foundation that went back, way back, probably to Bangladesh and beyond. But I love that I still have this. This is the in-store promo, because this is the first Harrison album that came out when I first started working in a record store at a young lad of 19. But I listened to this today, and I have some issues. Now, let me give you a little bit of a background of where I'm coming from in my taste. I did not like the remix of All Things Must Pass. I know George Harrison would always comment, and he did a remix of his own version, which I thought was atrocious, that CD, a series that came out. I actually went back after that came out and played the original vinyl version, my original copy, UK version, and an American version. And I think the Phil Spector produced album is stunning. It's a beautiful sounding record. Yes, it has all the big production and the wall of sound that he does, but I think it's far superior than the remix. The Beatles remixes, I think they're interesting, they're fun. It's an alternative, but I prefer the originals. I know people in stereo, the left-right thing, and they want things more centered when it comes to stereo. And it's not just because I'm this old guy that's been listening to those records for 50 plus years. I just think they're better mixes, and there's something really wonderful about it. Now, this is not a audio file analog versus digital thing. I know those are from digital transfers. There's some amazing digital work that comes out, but there's also some great analog and vice versa, good and bad of either. So let's get into this. I'm not going to do a full-on visual presentation of the packaging, although I will say the packaging on this, the box of the deluxe version, is stunning. Beautiful job, Danny and Olivia and the group there. The design is great. The pressings are great. The sound, the quietness of the pressings are top notch. There you have it right away. But I'm going to put a couple links below to a couple of channels that already did really kind of wonderful visual overviews where you can see each piece that's included in here. But I don't think I need to go there because I want to talk about the music, because it is the music, although I love beautiful packaging. But just to give you a little idea, here's the book, and it's wonderful essays, introduction from George from way back, introduction from Olivia here, and just a really wonderful overview of what this record is about, showing tape boxes and the like, and proof of entity is, in a way. But I need to talk about this because there's some issues with it. This is remixed again, Danny Harrison and Paul Hicks. recording notes here. Again, look at those other videos. I need to talk about the proper album remix and the LP alternative. Now, I haven't listened to the CD or the DVD, which is included here, so I'm not going to comment on that. But let me talk about the remix. I listened to it straight through, and it was nice. It was quiet, again, good pressings, and I enjoyed it. But I sensed that something was off. You know, when you're used to something, obviously, for 50 years, it's going to be different. You have the sense memory of what it's like. I know this album extremely well. I love the beauty of it. I like the low-key songs, but I also like the upbeats of 3 or 4 tracks on here. One in particular, Don't Let Me Wait Too Long, which should have been a huge, massive single. It's got great hooks. It's wonderfully recorded and arranged and produced, and I just love that song. Living the Material World, fun song. But I think I have a problem with the remix here. I was listening to it, and there was something off, and then I put on the UK first, and then my US copy. Right off the top, Give Me Love. The acoustic guitar here have always been beautiful. Now, on the new version, you have to turn it up maybe 3 to 4 notches more to get it equal. Nothing wrong with that. That's not an issue at all. But I found it wanting. It didn't speak to me like the original. I know that's sort of a kumbaya thing, but it's appropriate for this album. Okay, I let it play. And then Sue Me, Sue You Blues with that great, acoustic slide guitar that George does. But George's voice almost seemed like it was flown in above everything. His vocals are slightly above the music this time. Now, except for one track, this isn't a Phil Spector production. It's George Harrison. This is the first record he recorded at Friar Park Studio. It's more of an intimate band than All Things Must Pass, which is great, but it's still, there's a lot of stuff going on here in the Phil Spector song and even in the George Harrison songs. It's a thick record in that respect, but I like that. I like the orchestration on this record. But for some reason, George's vocals on this new remix seems to not fit with the rest of the music. Are they drier? The album is dry. It doesn't have that big echo chamber type effect. But I think on the new remix, George's voice is more vulnerable. George's voice, the weak side of his vocals, to me is more apparent on this new remix than it is in the original version. I like when George does double tracking. I think that helps him because he seems to have a little frailness to his voice all over this, most of which was hidden on the original versions of this. But here, to me, they're more apparent, and it takes you out of the music. It took me out of the music. Now, I've heard a few people talk about this remix and saying how, the original album was muffled and it just needed to open up and everything. And I will admit that the remix version, there's clarity there. The original album, and the UK especially, but the American one too, is a brighter record. And I think is more intense. When the songs are the upbeat songs, for instance, like Don't Let Me Wait Too Long is probably the most commercial song on here. And I played this version and something was missing. It just, oh my gosh, I put on the original and then I went back and forth playing different cuts back to back. This versus the UK versus the original. The original and the UK have balls. That song kicks ass. It's dampened on this remix version. There's something, unfortunately, truly missing on the remix version. It's just, the vibrancy is gone. And I don't think it's muted at all. In fact, I think it's brighter. Now, I have a bright system. I'm in an open room. Those of you who've watched my videos or read my specs on the Hoffman Forum, you can read exactly what I have, equipment-wise and gear-wise. I don't know. And then, of course, living in the material world, I put the remix on, and it sounded, you know, fine, but just fine, just sort of pedestrian. I put the UK original on, and it was bright. It was, it had balls. You know, the remix didn't have balls. Going to side two, we have The Lord Loves the One That Loves the Lord. It's fine. Be Here Now is the most beautiful song on here. The George's guitar playing, that acoustic thing. I love, it's like this trance, uh, mystical, meditative piece of music. And uh, it's, it's, it's good on the remix, but it's better on the original. And I think uh, Nicky Hopkins' piano playing and Jim Keltner's drums are just, the snare drum snaps. Now, going back to the original, The Lord Loves the One, when the drums kick in halfway through, the snare drum, I should say, kicks in, it's muted on the remix, but it snaps. You hear the snare much better on the original. And I don't know what, I feel a little crazy. It's one of those moments, those movies when the guy goes in to check into a insane asylum just to kind of research it, and they lock him up and he can never get out because the more you say you're not crazy, you're actually crazy. That's how I feel about my opinion here, because I've been hearing that people, oh, the original's muffled and the new version, it just opens up and is everything else. And George's vocals are brought up more, but they're drier and they're weaker because they're brought up more. Again, his vocals are not great on this record. So by bringing them up more, they're more in your face, and they're more, to me at least, they're disappointing. I know some people feel that side two is this kind of low key, not a lot of energy, but it is a beautiful record, and I like that intimacy and that spirituality of George's playing and singing on this. I love the band, obviously Nicky Hopkins. I think Ringo's there a little bit, but mostly Jim Keltner. You got Klaus Forman. You got Gary Wright. It's a beautiful, beautiful record. But let me move on to the alternatives on this, because to me, that's where this set shines. Now let's go with the Outtake album. To me, this is worth it for the price of admission. This is the beauty of this collection. This is where the sound of it is stunning. All these outtakes he did, sometimes up to 90 outtakes, sometimes 40 outtakes. Almost every version of this are just sublime. Now, are they better than the originals? We didn't have all the overdubs and all the rest of it. That's not what this is about. But stripped down in many ways, this is good. I like George's singing on the outtake better than the remix album. It fits, and even he's got more soul on the outtakes. His voice sometimes is a little weaker, a little bit. One of the songs he kind of seemingly does his Tiny Tim thing. Be Here Now, maybe? Whatever it is. I love his singing on this. I love the playing on this. This seems like a flat transfer. This seems like they just took the tape, transferred it, cut it to the lathe, put it out. This is beautiful. I will be listening to this a lot. I won't be playing the remix of this album much. If I want to play this record, I'll play my original record. I think, as weak as that is for me, the alternate versions, the outtake versions, are beautiful. Even has the B-side, the single he did, Miss Odell, where he breaks up laughing. I've had that on single for many years, and it's great to have it here on an LP. But I think the Outtake album is the hero in this set, especially Be Here Now. A meditative, beautiful thing. It makes me wish that George had done an all-acoustic album, a very intimate album. I wish he did that in 1973. Surprised everyone after the magnificent opus of All Things Must Pass, the big production of Phil Spector, and instead went in the studio and just did a stripped down, unplugged acoustic album like this. I think spirituality wise, meditative wise, that would have been an album like when Springsteen did Nebraska. That would have been an album I think that would have stood the test of time much better than this remix right here. I just love that. Now, lastly, there's one thing that's really special on here, and unfortunately it's only on this big deluxe set, and I think some people are disappointed that it's not on the 2 CD set. One track, actually 2 versions in the deluxe set. Now here is the set with the CDs, the Blu-ray, surround, which I have not listened to yet. I'm not going to review that, but you have a 7-inch single, and this is probably one of the greatest things also on this record. If you have the Ringo album, the wonderful 1973 Ringo album, George has this song, Sunshine Life for Me, with the band backing Ringo up on that. This is the version. There's an instrumental version on one side of the band and George Harrison, and there's a version with George's vocal track. When I heard this, I just thought this was so great. I love the band, and I love this kind of, organic, early Americana, Canadian, Liverpudlian, Henley-on-Thamesian version of this song, Sunshine Life for Me, Sail Away Raymond. This is amazing. It makes me wish, also, aside from that acoustic album that I wanted George to do that I mentioned 5 minutes ago, I wish George had done a complete album with the band. I mean, he loved that. Think of his association with Bob Dylan, If Not For You, the collaborations he did around the Johnny Cash time with Dylan and the writing together. This would have been great. Harrison, maybe with Dylan, but even just Harrison and the band would have been a stunner and would have held up better than a lot of the Harrison stuff around this period. There's a certain organic sound to this, which is beautiful. George Harrison and the band, the 15th of March, 1973, Sunshine Life for Me, Sail Away Raymond, and the B-side is the dub version, the instrumental version. So, George Harrison and the band, Sunshine Life for Me, which is pretty much his guide vocal, I guess, for Ringo, for the Ringo album. Apple Studios, tape box from Friar Park Studio, Henley-on-Thames. I'm disappointed with the remix. I love the outtake disc. That's the one. I think you can get almost everything on a CD. After I kind of listened to this, I started reading some other people's reviews and takes, which I don't like to do before I record these videos. And I think I seem to be in the minority on this. I hear people talking about the original record is so muddy and so lifeless. Ain't in my room, ain't in my house, ain't on my rig. But I'm glad they're doing this. I just, I am a little bit exhausted about these remixes. The only one recently that I think is far superior than the original is Mind Games. Paul Hicks, I think, worked on that. Also with Sean, the Lennon one. That is far superior than the original. But George Harrison, a great record. I don't think it was made better, but the outtakes are worth it. Thanks for watching. Put your comments below. If you feel differently, that's fine. Let me know. I'm curious what other people think who have heard this. The vinyl version, remember, in my case. Mazzy loves you. Thanks a lot.